Joining us now is Derek Chollet. He is the counselor of the U.S. Department of State, where he serves at the rank of Undersecretary as a senior policy advisor to the Secretary of State on a wide range of issues and conducts special diplomatic assignments as directed by the Secretary. Welcome. Indeed, thank you for this opportunity, Mr. Chollet.
It's great to be with you. Thanks for having me.
Bangladesh has recently seen quite a few high-level diplomatic visits from the U.S. We saw Eileen 𝗙𝗍, Senior Director for South Asia at the U.S. National Security Council, visit the Foreign Minister, followed closely by U.S. Assistant Secretary for South and Central Asia Donald Lu's visit, and now yourself. Why are such high-level officials coming to Bangladesh in such a short time interval? Did any particular incident spark on these upsurge in diplomatic activities? And can you expect some more exciting visits in the near future, Mr. Chollet?
Well, again, thank you for having me. I'm very much looking forward to being in Bangladesh soon. And my trip comes as a follow-up to the several high-level trips we've had between the United States and Bangladesh just in the last year. Last March, Victoria Nuland was there for our strategic dialogue. We've had the foreign minister here in Washington, but then also senior officials in the last few months. And to me, it's a testament of the importance that we place on the relationship between the United States and Bangladesh, our shared interests in the region and in the world, and our aspirations for what we want to achieve in this relationship, which is now in its 51st year. It's really a remarkable story, the journey that Bangladesh has traveled. The United States has deep ties to Bangladesh economically, politically, and in terms of what we do together in the security sphere. And so my talks will be to follow up on all of those issues and work through our common problems, but also talk about common solutions.
Thank you, Mr. Counselor. Recently, you have seen that the 2023 National Defense Authorization Act passed by the Senate includes some key points from the Burma Act. Will the conflict in Myanmar and the genocide of the Rohingya people become a security priority for the U.S.?
Yes, it has been and it will continue to be a priority. One of the reasons why it's so important for me to visit colleagues in Bangladesh is to talk about the situation in Myanmar and the way forward there. Of course, Bangladesh, with over 1 million refugees, Rohingya refugees, has been an incredible host for those refugees. And these are men, women, and children who have fled tremendous hardship across the border in Myanmar. We are deeply concerned about the situation in Myanmar, which is only getting worse. And we, the United States, are doing what we can in cooperation with Bangladesh to try to ease the pressure on Bangladesh from this refugee crisis by providing critical assistance to Bangladesh to assist in its humanitarian needs, but then also with efforts to try to bring some of those refugees back here to the United States, because that's a population that unfortunately is only growing.
Mr. Chollet, as you mentioned, since the beginning of the Rohingya refugee crisis, we have received enormous amounts of aid and support from the U.S. government. The resettlement program is the most comprehensive action plan any developed nation has made regarding the issue so far. However, the number of resettlement is very low at the moment. Whether or not peace is restored in Myanmar, the Rohingya people's fate will remain uncertain. Will the U.S. scale up its resettlement program if repatriation becomes entirely unfeasible?
Well, we've worked very hard with our colleagues in Bangladesh to develop this resettlement program, which is ambitious in terms of the number of people we will be bringing here to the United States. But at the same time, we recognize that it is insufficient itself to deal with the large volume of refugees that Bangladesh is currently hosting, again, well over 1 million now. So we need to first try to work to solve the problem inside Myanmar. And unfortunately, the instability in Myanmar is only growing. We have seen the violence there simply get worse over the last several months. And it's something that we're working with the neighboring countries of Myanmar, Bangladesh, India, Thailand, and then other broader countries within Southeast Asia to try to address the root causes of where this refugee crisis is coming from. And that is the instability and terrible violence we're seeing in Myanmar.
The United States seems now keener than ever to increase the bilateral ties with Bangladesh. It seems the current U.S. foreign policy regarding the Indo-Pacific is to look at South Asia nations holistically instead of from the lens of other regional powers such as India and Pakistan. What caused this paradigm shift in Washington, and what could this mean for the smaller nations in the South Asia region?
Well, as you've seen in the last 2 years, the Biden administration has implemented its Indo-Pacific strategy, and it's made very clear as part of our national security strategy the importance of the Indo-Pacific to U.S. national interests in the coming decades. And Bangladesh is a critical piece of that puzzle because of its importance in the region, because of the size of its population, because of the vibrancy of its economy, and the great potential we see in deeper cooperation between the United States and Bangladesh. That's why we have seen such a steady stream of high-level visitors to Bangladesh. It's why the Secretary of State is asking me to come to continue the discussions and talk about the ways that we can realize these common interests, whether they're in our economic ties or what we're doing diplomatically in the world, but also what we can do to improve our security relationship further, but then also to work through shared challenges that we face, whether those challenges are regional in terms of the situation in Myanmar, challenges are global but affect Bangladesh fundamentally, like climate change, as well as the work we're doing more broadly in the diplomatic sphere. There's a whole host of issues that we have to work through together. And again, that to me is a testament of what a healthy, a vibrant partnership should be about.
Thank you. Mr. Derek Chollet, the U.S. Has been one of the Bangladesh's most reliable development partners since liberation. A large part of Bangladesh's economy is dependent on U.S. RMG imports. The U.S. also has a large amount of FDI in the energy sector of Bangladesh. Do you think there is potential to create more channels of mutual cooperation between the United States and Bangladesh?
Oh, absolutely. And it's one of the reasons why it's important for visitors like me to come to Bangladesh, talk to senior officials there and the private sector as well about the ways we can deepen this cooperation. Again, we see huge potential in our relationship. We feel like we're starting from a very strong place already, but there's a lot of room to grow. And we are keen to follow up on all of that. So again, it's remarkable the journey that Bangladesh has traveled over 51 years since 1971 to today, and we're very proud of the small part that we have played in that journey in terms of our assistance over many years, but also now interested in deepening these ties further across a broad range of issues.
And promoting democratic values across the world is the mission statement of President Biden's foreign policy position. Under this initiative, we are seeing global cooperative actions such as the Summit for Democracy. We can recognize that all democracies are flawed, and maybe some are more flawed than others. Perhaps the democracies which are the most flawed have the most to benefit from such a global initiative. Do you think participation of Bangladesh in such initiatives would help improve its democratic culture?
Well, the United States does place democracy and human rights at the heart of our foreign policy. And it's important to note, just as the heart isn't the only vital organ that we have, there are other things at play as well.
Indeed.
But nevertheless, human rights and democracy is at the heart of our policy. And because Bangladesh is such a good, long-standing friend, we have very frank exchanges about concerns we might have, just as we acknowledge here in the United States that our democracy is not perfect, but that we are always trying to make ourselves better and to acknowledge our mistakes and improve. And that's why when we raise concerns about the freedom of the press, about free and fair elections, about the ability of civil society to organize and express itself freely, we do so in the spirit with humility, but also in the spirit of partnership and friendship. And so we look forward to continuing to work closely with the government of Bangladesh to continue to develop and strengthen its democracy. Because again, we believe that being a strong democracy is vital for a country to be successful in the 21st century.
So my last question to you, as we're talking about democracy, as you know, U.S. is always expressing its concern about Bangladesh's human rights, labor rights, and elections. This is an election year for Bangladesh. What's your expectation from upcoming Bangladesh elections?
Well, as we say to all of our democratic friends, we would want any election, and we would hope that any election will be free and fair, that an opposition has an opportunity to organize, to express itself. I know that just late last year, there were several very large civil society rallies in Bangladesh that were peaceful, and that's a good thing for the opposition to be able to, or anyone to be able to express themselves freely, safely. And that's all we're asking. It's important to have a free media. We think it's important for
Indeed.
journalists to hold people in responsibility accountable for their actions, and that's absolutely critical to the functioning of a healthy democracy. So again, we raise these issues in the spirit of partnership and friendship, with the humility that we don't always get it right either. That's why things like the Summit for Democracy are important. It's about democracies learning from one another, and we will continue to look forward to working with Bangladesh as it is working with us and other democratic nations to try to make our democracy stronger.
Thank you for your most insightful responses, Mr. Chollet. I hope you will enjoy your upcoming visit here in Dhaka.
Thank you very much. I'm very much looking forward to it. Thank you. Hope to see you there.
Thank you. Thank you so much.